Hey, you one handsome,
Andre,
you one handsome looking guy. How's it going?
lekker, man. Good to see you. Happy Thursday. I missed you last week, man.
I know. I'm sorry, man. It was such a hectic week, right? We were actually, for those listening and watching, we were planning on going live, and I had to cancel like last minute. It was just too tight. But yeah, man, I did miss it, and thanks for being patient with me, and grateful to be here today, and looking forward to the topic. Actually, I think it's a very cool topic, and I think we've all been in those situations. So I'm very keen to hear your stories and your thought processes behind it. And then at the same time, just unpacking some experience that we've had and some lessons that people can take away, and hopefully it'll help them whenever they find themselves in a similar situation. So, guys, the topic for today is just like, what do you do when your back's against the wall as a founder? Like, what do you do? Like there's sometimes we find ourselves in seasons of darkness, when things are just not going the way that you want it to, and you kind of like have to take stock, and you have to battle the thoughts in your head, and those thoughts get very dark sometimes. I've spoken to someone literally about a week ago who was telling me a story when things were going tough, and he was jobless for about 6 months, and he was saying like some of the thoughts was dark, and it gets like, wait, where's this coming from? So interesting topic. I think a lot of people will benefit from it, and I think for side, John, I'm very interested to hear what you have to say about it as well.
Yeah, it's one of the things that a lot of people don't often talk about, because we often talk about how to 10x revenue and how to do all the cool stuff. But what's interesting is that a lot of the people who are interested in how to 10x revenue are the people who are in a desperate situation. And so I love this topic. I've coached lots of entrepreneurs out of this situation. I've been in this situation more times than I like to advertise. So it's a topic close to home. And so like the high level overview, and Andre, like you and I will both have fantastic anecdotes to share. So I look forward to hearing a lot of yours as well. But for me, like the three main moves in when you find yourself in this situation is introspection first. I think as an entrepreneur, like your business is often an extension of yourself, and what's wrong with your business is often something wrong, not like wrong with you, but perhaps it exposes blind spots that you have about yourself and the way you go about things. And then financial triage. So when you're in the situation, once you've done the introspective stuff, you have to really take cognizance of the money side of everything. And then there are a few steps you can take to get onto the revenue offensive. And I think the faster you can get through step 1 and step 2, the faster you can focus on step 3. And that's the exciting, fun part of this process. So,
sorry to interject there. I'm not as smart as most people. So I think with that said, like, break it down to me like I'm 5 years old. When you say introspection, what do you truly mean by that? Like, for those watching and listening, like, what does introspection mean to you? How would you define that?
So for me, introspection is looking inwards, sometimes looking in the mirror, and being very honest with yourself. So, like, for example, when I was in a dark place with Real Meal Revolution, my company, I remember as a young entrepreneur, I was swinging, like just taking big bat swings and swinging, trying to hit home runs left, right, and center. And what happened there was we were in like financial dwang. And what I kind of failed to recognize was the structural elements of the situation I was in. And so I always look at the structure as a whole, like what is the partnership you're in, who, like from a business perspective, your shareholders, etc. Who are the people who you're engaged in business with? And I'll give you an example. Like we had an endorsement from a very, very famous person, and we were paying them money and they were supporting us, but the contract had exclusivity clauses in it that were unrealistic. So we were in this contract, and I kept trying to hold that entity to terms. And actually, like the contract, even though it was bulletproof or rock solid, it wasn't actually like in the spirit of what both parties actually wanted. The other thing was I was in a shareholding relationship with four other people. And it was like, and they had 45% of this company, and I was in a lawsuit, and I was fighting so hard, to keep the company alive. And actually, like, the company was, at the time, it was worth nothing. And so I was fighting only to one day realize that I would be paying 45% of all the profit to them. And so I was not that motivated. So for me, introspection, okay. And then also there was a lot of looking in the mirror. So at the time I was blaming everyone, this person's not sticking to terms. These shareholders are putting pressure on me. The directors don't see my vision. And I was very much like pointing outwards at all of these external entities. And what I really needed to do was focus inwards and say, okay, well, it is what it is. Now, what can I own about it? So sure, like, I'm not going to say there were no other people involved and there weren't people who also had selfish interests and whatever, but what can I own? And sometimes, even if someone is being a total like psychopath, which is, they're out there, the part that you can own is being a poor judge of character and say, actually, I have a blind spot for that type of person, or I have a blind spot for, these nuances when it comes to forming a different business relationship, like a date before we get married sort of thing, which I could very easily have done. And so when I say introspective, I mean really analyzing how you got into this position, as opposed to analyzing like whose fault it is. Because, taking accountability.
But we'll get into that, and I think just financial triage, like from my side, like how would you sum that up? And I mean, in a 60-second thing for those listening and watching.
Yeah, financial triage is being ruthless with your finances. So being brutally honest with everyone about the truth of your finances, and working hard to, and you have to be honest with the people who you owe money, especially being brutally honest with your family, being ruthless with what you cut. Because if you're running a profit of, if you have a GP of 50%, every 100 Rand that you need to get in to pay your overheads is 200 Rands worth of revenue. But yes, if you just cut 100 Rand, then that's 200 Rand revenue you don't need to get. So I think that cutting costs is not always the best and nicest way to free up cash, but it is the fastest way. And sometimes when you're up against the wall, it's an opportunity for you to cut dead weight in terms of overheads, products, etc.
Like, and then, I mean, let's dive into the three things. So for those watching and listening, this is kind of like today's topic, is just, what do you do when your back's against the wall? You can end up in a very dark place. And I think we've both been there more than once, like Jono said, and my side too. And I mean, COVID was one of them. And there's a few things philosophically that I've also realized, and I think it all starts with taking accountability, but I'm keen to dive deeper into this topic. So Jono, you said having the right structures is probably the first order that you probably need to do. Break us down maybe just in simple terms how that would look like, if someone is finding themselves in a situation that they don't prefer and it's very stressful and dark.
Yeah. Well, so I think for me, I think about a few mates that I have and some people that I've coached. Often people are in a business partnership with a partner that might have been right at a certain time, but it's kind of reached its end. That could be a certain investor who wanted to get the company to a certain point, but is now like lost interest. It could be that you and your mate started a business and you had like high hopes, and actually you've ended up fighting, and now you don't want to. You lose that internal drive, and it's very subtle. But you lose that internal drive to grow the company because you actually feel like you are working to make someone else rich. And it often happens in a partnership.
Yeah, sorry, I want to interject there, but that's exactly a conversation I'm having now with someone who's actually one of our clients in the agency, and we've built such a great relationship. And he sold 50% of his company to an external party, an amazing business. They're doing hundreds of millions a year. And they're growing quite quickly in the space that he's in. They bought into his business with the idea to plug in and amplify the growth and take it to the next level. Things didn't materialize that way because of very vague expectations on both parties' side. I think that was one of their first ventures outside of from a capital investment side of things. It was like one of the first businesses they actually bought into and tried to integrate into those ecosystem. And on his side, I think, he was also a bit naive on how to actually structure a deal that's fair and open. And Maybe you don't want to be as transparent as you want to be, but he was sitting in a situation where I literally had Monday, I had lunch with him and he was like, I am not motivated to build this business. I'm going to start maybe looking at something else. And it's like, okay, cool. Wow. You've spent years of your life, probably 4 or 5 years of his life building this business. And it's funny how the wrong partner, or not being transparent enough, or not being clear enough, or not being assertive enough, can find you so demotivated and frustrated, and the emotional toll it takes on you and yourself and your people around you. It's just not great. So it's funny you say that, because I literally had that example this week.
Yeah, and I mean, if you think about a business partnership, it is almost tougher than a marriage, and more expensive if it goes wrong. so it requires the same level of maintenance. So I believe that just like most marriages can be saved, that a lot of business partnerships can be saved. But I think in some ways the stakes are lower in walking away from a business partner, because if it's not serving you, that's great. You haven't made any oaths or vows. You don't have kids. Just you can walk away. But the sort of simple maths for me is like, is your business partnership one? Like, does it equate to 1 + 1 = 3? Like, so if you do you know what I mean? Like, if your business partner and you could earn the same revenue working alone than you're working together, then it might suit you to actually just do that and collaborate on jobs. But then you free up extra energy for a whole lot of other things. Then the other two are like,
or the other way to look at it is like, can 1 + 1 essentially, can it actually, it's the skills that complement each other in that business, can it actually amplify the growth? Because it's like, I think looking at from a revenue side and an earning side, but often people have different skills, and it's very hard that you'll be able to make that money if you don't have that additional skill that your partner have. So it's almost like taking stock of whether you have the right partners that can actually add the necessary strategic value in order to keep growing the business. Because what I have seen is that people bring on partners that add value, but that value is for only 6 months. And then they remain shareholders and directors in the business, and they benefit from everything from it. And you need to be very clear about, when you bring people on board that takes equity in your business, you need to be very clear about how the roles and responsibilities will look. And you also need to think 5 years down the line as opposed to just 6 months, because sometimes you bring partners on board that's going to help you get through the next 6 months, but will they also be able to help you carry, will they be able to carry you for the next 5 years? And a lot of people bring partners on board that strategic value that they offer is very short-lived, and then you're sitting with someone that you're dragging across the finish line.
Well, and this is another reason I like this section in the introspection part, because often people want a partnership, they need help, but they want to have the whole pie. And you and I have chatted about this quite a lot. So I have someone close to me has a distribution company, and I think it was about 8 years ago, he was on the edge. I think something like 3 or 4 weeks away from like closing his doors. And someone earlier that year had offered to buy into his company, and he'd been like, no, like, I'm fine. And then he realized he was going down, and had a long, hard look in the mirror and said, actually, like, I need the cash, because it was a cash flow thing, not a revenue thing. And actually, maybe it would work better for me to have these partners, because they can bring in more revenue. They're driven, they're hungry. Like, maybe it's a good deal. And they recently reported a billion with a B, billion rand in revenue, 8 or 9 years after the partnership started. So, and that came from, obviously the shareholding is much lower, but they are now like a force in their industry. And so that's the kind of trajectory you can get from like swallowing your pride and actually looking at the bigger picture.
Without digressing the conversation, I suppose a partnership conversation is one for another time. But let me tell you, I don't take 100% equity of businesses anymore. Like, it's just not something I do. Again, like, I'm at a different phase of my life. But I think a lot of people, especially when it's your first or second business, you have that ego that wants to hold on to everything because it's the first thing that actually looks like it's going somewhere. And then it's like, how do you know you can actually trust these people that you're bringing on board? How do you know it's actually going to work out? And the reality is you don't. But that is why you set clear expectations and clear measurable KPIs of what needs to be achieved by every single party. But let's move on from that one. I think this one you said, relationship with yourself and with the other people around you.
Yeah, I think it's very, a lot of entrepreneurs define themselves as entrepreneurs. I know that for me, my career has always been a huge part of my identity. And so failing at business, in essence, for a lot of people means failing as a person. It's another thing, not that all women feel this, but a lot of women who battle to have children feel the same thing. Like that battling to have kids is almost
Feel like
for them
failure.
feels like a failure.
You feel you're not living up to the reason you're here almost.
Yeah. So for me, like a lot of that comes down to, and that's why it's in the introspection stage. Your relationship with yourself is huge, and I think it's really important to kind of be forgiving of yourself when you make mistakes, and to focus more on how much more equipped you are for the next round than focus on how badly you stuffed up the last round. But Andre, this is an area where you've shared absolute gold with me as well about your relationship with yourself and trusting your intuition.
I think from my side, the biggest awakening moment that I've had is that I am the problem always. And that starts with having a relationship with yourself, because I don't think if you don't have a relationship with yourself, you won't be able to reach that level of self-awareness. I think like having a relationship with yourself, being okay by sitting in silence and truly understanding who you are. I always said, like, when I leave this earth, I want to understand everything about myself. And I think that is such a weird thing to say, right? Like, you would assume that everybody just knows who they are. But I can tell you now, 99% of people don't. Like, we just reflections of what we want people to think about us. Like, we just reflections of what we think people want to see, as opposed to living our most authentic self, expressing ourselves authentically in the ways that we would prefer. And without getting too philosophical about it, I remember explicitly taking magic mushrooms, psilocybin. And to be honest with you, I come from a very conservative Afrikaans family. So when I told my mom and my dad, I mean, I'm like 30, so that doesn't really matter, but they were like, "Oh, hi, Nia," And, it's like, listen, this is the best thing since sliced bread. I believe every single person needs to take it, because you reach such a deep level of introspection and self-awareness. Not just self-awareness about yourself, but also people around you, and how your actions and words and choices and all those things affect the people around you. It is the biggest awakening moment I've ever had in my life. And that day, my wife will tell you that's the day I changed. So when I go through, dark times, or when there's certain situations where I need to reflect, I have come to the conclusion that it's 99.9%, it's always my fault, actually. Whether it's your judge of character on who you've hired, whether it is taking accountability for the decision itself, whether you were influenced by someone to make that decision, you still said, okay, I'll go along with it, or whatever it is. And I think most people just don't want to take that level of accountability because it's painful. The ego doesn't like it. The ego, it bruises when it makes a mistake, because the whole job of this identity that we've created is to be successful and to be correct and to move forward and to grow and to prove to other people that you've got shit figured out. But the reality is nobody's got shit figured out. We all just fucking clueless. We on a journey of discovery. That's what we are. That's what everything just is. And I wish more people were transparent about it, as opposed to pretending like you're a guru that's got everything figured out. Just be, hey, I don't have everything figured out, but I figured out sales. Therefore, I'm making money, but I'm still figuring out everything else. I'm still figuring out how to scale. I'm still figuring out how to save a marriage. I'm still figuring out how to raise children. I think we look at other people, we put them on pedestals, and we realize they probably know less than us, or they have less experience than us, or sometimes it's just one thing that they're really good at. And it kind of like creates this facade of that they just got life figured out. So the first epiphany was, okay, I don't know anything. It's usually 99% of the time it's my fault. And how can I just accept that? And how can I just be okay with that and be at peace with that and enjoy the journey of learning, whatever that looks like? I think for me, from a relationship with myself, is that, one, I'm okay with making mistakes. I'm okay with not being correct. I'm okay with being called out if I made a mistake. I'm okay with losing money. I'm okay with literally hitting rock bottom, God forbid, touch wood. But it's like, once you accept those things and the ego doesn't resist it, it's almost like you feel free and light. And you don't mind looking at things from a different perspective. You don't mind assuming account or taking accountability, and you don't mind being hard on yourself and going, well, I could, could have done this better. I could have done better. Let's learn from it and apply it next time. So I think the ego is really just what's blocking everybody from reaching a level of self-awareness. And once you reach that level of self-awareness and you just tell the ego to calm the F down, and it's like, cool, let's just learn from this and grow, life starts to change like quite quickly, because now you become the student as opposed to pretending to be the master.
Yeah, it's the best. There's one nugget I really wanted to share, and when I was coaching, I did a lot of studying of this. I'm trying to remember what it was called. I think it was compassion-focused training or compassion-focused therapy. And a lot of people, when they think about self-compassion, they think about being gentle and kind with themselves, and they immediately associate that with being weak. So a lot of high performers like to be quite hard on themselves and aggressive, and they're like, be better. How did you fuck that up, etc. And they ran a lot of studies on the way people respond. And so this is the example. So the example was, if your child was, so first you ask, like, how do you talk to yourself when you make a mistake? And most people, in fact, I did a live demonstration of this online. Most people, when they make a mistake, they're like, fuck, how did you do that? You fucking idiot, get your shit together, or whatever. And then they said, okay, now, if your child was trying to walk, how would you talk to them if they fell on their bum, like while they were trying to walk? And you'd be like, come on, boy, like, oh girl, you got this, like, oh sweet. And then you'd be like so excited for them, right? And what they said is, like, when you make a mistake, and so the thing is, if you speak to a child negatively when they fail, they will then develop a pain association with trying and failing, and then they will stop trying. So the worst way to build resilience in a child is to berate them when they fail. And that is exactly the same with adults. So adults are just really big children with lots of baggage. And so what they found is in high-performing athletes, so this is where the shift happens, because they studied a whole lot of high-performing athletes, and they asked them what their inner dialogue is when they make mistakes. And I've actually seen Sylvester Stallone talk about this at a Tony Robbins event that I went to. He said when they are really struggling or they've failed, the athletes who perform the best are the ones who are kindest to themselves when they make mistakes, because then they are able to get, they show themselves compassion because they are able to get straight back into the game and forgive themselves the fastest. So compassion is actually a high performance tool, not a like soft fuddy-duddy thing. Yeah.
There's two things I want to share. Like, one, and this is maybe that's more philosophical, and not everybody is going to appreciate this maybe, but it's like I believe everything is energy. So the moment you share compassion, it's one of the highest energetic frequencies that you can actually share. So that is in your body, and that allows you to change the frequency that you're on after making the mistake, and that frequency starts to alter everything around you. And I really believe that. But anyway, not a lot of people are going to understand that, and probably would disagree with that. But on a medical physical level, I believe everything is energy, and the energy that you choose to vibrate through your thoughts and your emotions are so crucial in creating the reality that you're experiencing. Number one. Number two is Kobe Bryant. So this is a true story. So he literally had the winning shot, and he took the shot. He's a basketball player, for those who don't know. So he took the shot and he missed, and the team lost in the finals. And he sat like this, literally, like with his over, holding his head on his hands, and he's just like in this little ball almost, with his elbows on his knees, head down, hands on his head, and he was sitting like that probably for like a good 10 minutes. And the reporter or the interviewer came to him, closer to the end of the post-match interview, and he's like, "Listen, I know that you're having a moment, and I just wanted to ask you one or two questions." And he goes, "No, sure." And he says, "I just want to ask you, like, obviously you've been sitting like this for the last 10 minutes. My question to you is, what are you telling yourself about the mistake that you made? Like, how are you obviously beating yourself up mentally?" And he goes, "What mistake? Beating myself up mentally?" He goes, No, I was analyzing why the hell I missed that shot. And trust you me, I will not miss it again." So it was like, I know exactly what I did wrong. That's actually what he also said. It's like, I analyzed why I missed that shot. I know exactly what I did wrong. And trust you me, it won't happen again. And it was like the reporter was like, oh, wow, we all thought that you're beating yourself up. And it just ties in so beautifully with what you were saying. It's like, you have to be compassionate. You have to look at it from a more positive perspective and go, what the hell can I learn from this? And I think the perspective that's helped me a lot in this journey that makes that process easier is I see everything that's happening to me as something that has to happen, that is teaching me a lesson that I need to learn in order to develop a specific sort of skills or network or acquaintance or opportunity, so that I can become a better version of myself in order to achieve the goal that I've actually set out to achieve. Because when you set these big goals for yourself, you need to realize you are not the person that can actually achieve that goal yet. Like, if you were the best player on the team, then you would already be in the Springbok team, right? But if you start out at the age of 18, 19, and you're not in the Springbok team, everything that happens now up until you reach the Springbok team is just lessons for you to become a better player. And the moment you beat yourself up and put yourself back, guess what? You're actually delaying your career from reaching the Springbok level. But the moment you go, oh shit, this I should have done, this I should have done better, I could have done this better, the coach was right, I should have looked at this, I should have analyzed that, and you take this all as learning opportunities. 10 matches later, you playing a much better game. 2 years later, you one of the best, in your region or country, whatever it is. And before you know it, you're actually in the Springbok team because of all the shit that you've learned along the way. But you wouldn't have learned that if you haven't made those mistakes. So it's really just understanding that these things that happen to us, I believe, are pathways that you walk through as opposed to hurdles that you have to crawl or under or jump over. It's really just path that turns you into someone else and a better version of yourself. And that better version of yourself is the version that can actually achieve that goal.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I think that just in terms of the mental and introspection chapter of the 3-step get out of a whole process, the two things we haven't really touched on, or to tie a bow in relationship with self and others, I was going to say, like, to mentally prepare for the worst and aim for the best. But the next two things are really critical, which is your mental fitness and your physical fitness. I remember, so one day in my business, I took a wild bet, and I bet that by dropping the price of our main product, we would sell a much higher volume and get more revenue. And it was totally based on another competitor who had launched a similar product. And so I cut the price by, I think, 80%. We went down to 20%, which now I think about it, I'm cringing. It's such a dumb thing to do. But and our volumes didn't go up, and we found ourselves in massive shit very, very quickly. It's so weird. It was like a total punch in the face from self. And anyway, and my child was like 4 months old. My wife and I were like hating each other, and I was like stressing every day, like I was on a knife's edge. In fact, and I just went to my mentor and I said, I'm like in so much trouble. And he is very successful. I was kind of hoping he would be like, oh, well, I see potential in you and your business. Maybe I'll just give you some money and guide you a little bit. It just didn't happen. And instead, what he said to me was like, Jono, how is your, like he said, how often are you seeing your friends and having like fun? And how much exercise are you doing? And I was like, what? Like, what is that? And then the third thing he said was like, how's your marriage? And so his response to my financial issue was like, firstly, if your marriage is out of whack, your whole castle is in trouble. Like, you need to get your house in order, basically. And then he said, yeah, and if you're not exercising, you're not actually blowing off steam at all. So I immediately started CrossFit. I don't know if I've told you that I CrossFit, but now you know. And then
they tell us that
yeah. And so I started CrossFit. I started sleeping for 8 hours a day, and I immediately started like paying extra special attention to my marriage and socializing. Like, when you're in that hole and there's no reprieve and there's no pleasure and there's no fun, it's hard to keep yourself motivated. But like, if you just spend time with the people you love, even if it's just for a few hours, it like releases the load. And it's scientifically proven to reduce cortisol.
It's all energy, man. Like your energy starts, and then your reality starts to change. And I mean, again, this is probably not the conversation for it, but I'm such a big believer. It's like, when I started changing my energy, like consciously feeling like I'm feeling like the other day I said to my wife, I'm feeling like low energy, meaning like not tired, but like low frequency. I'm having like
Mm.
but anxious thoughts. I feel a bit frustrated with a few things, and I've become so conscious of it now. Like there is not a moment where I go, oh, what is this weird feeling? I know exactly what I'm feeling when I'm feeling it, and it happens like within the first minute. And I've become conscious, and I was like, no, I'm going to change the way I feel about this. Like I'm looking at it from a different perspective, and then my energy starts to change. And you know what? The weirdest shit happens. Like 3 days later, that problem is gone. That challenge is overcome. Or all I had to do was just click a link and sort something out. Or it was someone that says, "Oh, sorry, it was actually my fault." I was like, "How does shit did that happen? I didn't see that coming." It's like shit just happens out of nowhere, and a lot of people can call it luck, but it really just is your energy. And I believe that's what Jesus meant with "as within, so without," and what you reap, you sow. What you sow, you shall reap. It's like the energy that you produce, that you create. That is what you're going to experience in some way, shape, or form. But anyway, moving on.
I think this is exactly the right place for that, by the way. I think it's sage advice.
I just never know who's listening and who's watching, but I think to sum it up is like when I started taking conscious control of what I'm thinking and what I'm feeling. Like here's the thing that a lot of people don't know. You can actually change how you feel right now. Like if you stressed out right now, you can change that right now. Literally. People go, it's impossible. I have all okay, just pretend like it's sorted. How would you feel? I would feel better. How would you feel?
Yeah.
Can you imagine feeling it now? Maybe it's difficult at first, given, true, fair. But I've become a master at feeling what I want to feel, even though the reality is not matching that. So
Yeah.
I feel joyous. I feel excited. I feel like I'm on top of everything. I feel like I'm in flow. I feel like everything is moving in the right direction. I feel that I'm the luckiest man alive. I feel that I've got people around me who supports me and want me to succeed. I feel that my wife loves me and that my kids love me. I feel all these things all the time. And does it mean that does it mean like it's like that all the time? No. But out of 365 days a year, it's like that probably 80% of the time. Where in the past,
no, carry on.
No, in the past it was like 50% of the time or 60% of the time. But since I've consciously started going, this is how I want to feel, life has changed.
So I'll just share a quick story. It relates to physical fitness in a way, but when we were on the boat to Mozambique, before we swam from Mozambique to Madagascar, I don't know if you know, but I was undertrained and I had been sick for about 2 months. So I was nervous that I was actually going to die when we did the swim. And we had 5 days in transit, and there was a lot of bad water, and so everyone was seasick. And so I had 5 days to lie on my back. And so what I did was I went through this process of visualizing and imagining what it would feel like if I was a good swimmer. And slowly but surely over those 5 days, I shaved my head and I shaved my whole body so that I could start imagining myself as a swimmer. I spent time lying in the sun, like getting sunburnt because we were up the east coast of Africa. And then I started visualizing all of my swims and imagining like what it would feel like to finish each swim and like imagine my toes touching the sand and like high-fiving my swimming buddy. And I also went through every single swim in my head about 5 times a day. So we had to swim 3 swims a day for 25 days. And each swim was like 3 hours, 2 hours, 1 hour per day. And so I would like count through each swim in my head and go through. So basically, after 5 days of doing that, I'd like hypnotized myself into believing that I was this like professional swimmer, and I'd done it physically as well. So when I looked in the mirror, I saw like a different version of me. And so when I got in the water on the first day, I was like, there was not a moment once I started swimming that I was not going to finish. It was like I had seen it happen so many times already that it was already done. And it was honestly like a completely hypnotic, transformative experience. And I believed it. Like I bought my own bullshit. Like I was the swimmer now. And it was just from like concentrating on how I was going to feel and what it would feel like if I was a good swimmer in my mind.
Absolutely, man. That is so powerful. And I think there's this reel, and I don't want to linger on this for too long, but there's this reel of Ronaldo standing before a free kick. And then you can watch him repeat the words, and it's in Portuguese. So my wife is Portuguese. I don't speak Portuguese, but this is what he's saying in English, and he's saying, you can. This is normal for you. Every time you kick, you score. It's like, and he repeats this in his mind like 4 or 5 times. And then
Really?
obviously not every time he kicks, he scores the ball. But in his mind, he's like, if I kick this ball, it's going to go in. And funny enough, that's the exact moment it went in. So it was like it was literally a penalty, a free kick, and it went in. But obviously he says that every time, and not every single one goes in. It was just by coincidence at that time it did go in. But he is one of the best free kickers in the world. And at the same time, it's you can see top athletes do it. Like they literally program their minds, they prime their minds for what's about to happen, and they believe in themselves. There's so many people who've said, I believe that this is going to happen before it happened, and there was nothing that's going to stop me. It was almost like inevitable. It's like, this is already written. I'm just living through it. And I think if more people had that level of faith, and I really believe that's what Jesus meant with having the faith of a mustard seed. It's like have the faith of a mustard seed. The moment you have that level of faith in yourself, and that's what Jesus also said. Like, I don't want to make this a spiritual thing, but it's like, he's like, why are you so surprised that I'm doing these miracles? This you can do and more. Come on, man, wake up. The kingdom of God is within you. Just believe. Have the faith of a mustard seed. And it's like, since I started realizing that, thanks to psilocybin and other stuff that's happened in my life, it's like, bro, we just limit ourselves so much. And I think the moment you have your back against the wall, you have to be that person who starts believing that everything is going to be okay first. Like, if you don't believe that it's going to be okay, guess what? It's probably not going to be okay, because that is literally what you are programming for yourself to experience. But when you go, I don't know how the F I'm going to get through this, but it's okay. I will get through it no matter what, and I will be okay. The weirdest thing starts to happen.
Yeah. So, and I think this is where it's a nice segue into the financial triage, because I think a lot of people stop at the first interpersonal stuff. I know a lot of self-help junkies indulge in the self-help and don't actually spend enough time translating that beautiful energy and thought into action. And so the next step really, and these all happen at the same time in a lot of ways, but getting yourself out of the shit in business is financial triage. And so, like, I used to do this thing when I was in big trouble, and I had this spreadsheet that used to run. It was kind of like a cash flow statement, but it was really like an interlinked long spreadsheet that had like all the money coming in and all the money going out on every day of every month, with a running total at the bottom. So I could see where my day 0 was if I didn't get any more sales, and I could manipulate it as well. And so I think if you like, the one thing I would realize is that day 0 is nowhere near as close as most people think it is, because even if you have like no money, there are still people who will supply you with goods. There are still people who will help you and lend you money, provided you've put a good case forward. But having that day 0 calculation it's the same that I saw in the weight loss industry so many times, where someone is so overweight that they won't stand on the scale because they can't actually bear to face what they weigh. Now, I'll be the first to say there's absolutely no shame. It's just a number and it's a metric and it's the status quo. But having a true day 0 calculation for me is like the starting point for taking all financial action. And you can do that if you just take your financials, your month-to-month financials, and you throw them into ChatGPT, and you just drop them in and you say, here are my financials. Ask me 10 questions that you need the answers to in order to do a day 0 calculation for my business, like when I will run out. And once you've got that, it'll be very, very empowering for you to know. And you may well find that it's actually further away than you think.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because that's the same thing that I did in COVID. Like when COVID hit, we lost 30% of our revenue, top line revenue. And I mean, that was literally all our profit at the time. And
50%.
30%. So we lost 30% of our revenue. And at the time we were investing a lot in growing the team. So we had a lot of fixed expenses. And guess what? 30% of our revenue was gone, which was literally all our profit. So we were literally just on potentially break even, probably running at a loss. And I remember getting cold and anxious as the emails started coming in. And those emails came in freaking fast. Like, I mean, it was like, hey guys, COVID, this is the story. We might have to pause or cancel, and we're not going to. So it was like coming in like literally 1 or 2 emails a day for like a straight week. And I remember, like, you get this, it's almost like it gets everything gets tight, everything gets like almost cold, and you just like, I don't know how to express it, but it's almost like everything in you, like your heart, everything just gets so tight, and
Yeah.
it's like anxiety just builds up. And I remember feeling that so well. And this is exactly what I did. The first thing I did was like, cool, let me just understand where we are right now, and how can we ensure that I have, or at least how can I have gain clarity on how long I can sustain this for, because then only can I make objective decisions. So, and I think that's where a lot of business owners get super emotional, and that's normal, right? I mean, nobody's taught you how to navigate this. Like, this is not something you read in a textbook. In a textbook, they go, hey, if your revenue drops, then make sure to look at X and Y and Z. But there's nobody that guides you on how to handle the emotions that you're going to experience. Like, it's like, no, there's no textbook that says, hey, you're going to feel all these billion emotions and it's going to be super overwhelming and you probably want to, put a gun in your face, but you'll be okay. So it's like,
Yeah.
you need to really understand that the emotions are not what matters, actually. And that's what I've realized.
Yeah.
Like, those emotions build up, is like, just put it aside. Let's get objective as much as possible so that we can make the best decisions. And it's not because you want to do it, or it's more like you need to do it. It's like, you need to get objective with your decision making. And I think getting
Yeah.
to day zero is obviously the best way to start looking at things in a tangible and
Yeah.
objective.
Well, and then it really becomes about delaying day zero. Like we had a water shortage in Cape Town, and basically they said, well, at this rate, we will run out of water on this day. And so, what can we do to push that day out as far as possible? To get it closer to the rain. And so they were like, okay, well, if we limit everyone's factory water usage to X, day zero will be 3 months later. And if we limit personal use, then we'll get day zero to be further. So with your business, once you know what day zero is, now you're going out to buy time. And so what are the steps that you do to buy time? And for me, the first is to be absolutely transparent and honest. Like, I've been in two situations, one in my own business, and when I was still employed, I worked for a company that was also up shit creek. And I remember the boss would refuse to answer phone calls from a lot of suppliers. And so those suppliers stopped supplying product, and the staff started complaining, like, why can't we get the product? And then the owner wouldn't tell anyone what was going on. And so there was this like, just everyone was becoming so infuriated. And then there were opportunities where we could have actually brought in more revenue and saved money. But because that that person hadn't actually done the introspection, there was too much pride and involved in like making external announcements. Like, for instance, renting out half the premises would have saved 50 or like 80,000 rand a month, and then that never happened because it would require putting a signpost outside the building saying like partial to let, and that would be a sign of like we're in trouble kind of thing. So for me, and then when I had my my like dark time, I remember I was renting at this block in Cape Town called Black River Park, and it's a very fancy office block. My office was way too big, and it was A grade office space, which I really didn't need. And I realized like I needed to renegotiate my rent, and it was owned by a company where it's Redefine, and Redefine are quite tough. And I just phoned the property manager, and I didn't realize the property manager at the time was someone I went to school with. So now I'm like, my ego is sitting on the floor. I'm like standing on it. And I just phoned this guy and I said, Craig, listen, I need a rental holiday. Like, can you help me? Because I'm like going under basically. And I mean, I see this guy at Briar's, and it was super awkward. And he said, well, you know what? Because you've been so upfront about it and you haven't just not paid rent and been quiet, like, we're definitely going to help you out. And I was like blown away, because you see Redefine and you think, no, they're going to come for your house and your car. And they're like, we want your business to do well because we want long-term tenants. So yeah, we'll help you. And I think they gave me like half rent for 6 months. And then they gave me a year and a half after that to pay rent plus a bit so that I could amortize it. And they helped me find sublettees to lease out like half of my space. They like really came to the party. And that would never have happened if I wasn't transparent with them. I literally said to them, guys, I'm fucked. And they were like, Yeah, and they were like, cool, we understand.
That's
So
I mean, a beautiful thing because everybody is so proud, right? I mean, everybody's
yeah,
egos are in the way. You've got a chip on your shoulder. It's like you don't want to tell people things are not going well. You just want to post whatever is going well in your life, and you want your Instagram to look like a vision board. It's like you realize like that's not how life is, and that's okay. And I think it's just being humble and authentic about the situation. And I think the moment you ask for help, you'll be surprised how many people are willing to help, as long as they can see
yeah,
that you try to fix it. Like when you ask
yeah,
for help, but it's clear that you're not actually doing anything on your side to make this situation better, then people are not going to help you. That's why a lot of people ask for help and people don't help them, because people don't want to invest their time and energy and money into people who are not willing to help themselves. But the moment someone is willing to help themselves, and you can see that this person is actively grinding and hustling in order to get out of the situation, people are so open to assisting. Like
yeah,
it's almost like magnetic that you want to help
yeah,
those people. And that
totally.
starts clear and an authentic and open communication for sure.
Well, so that takes me to like just the three other points of financial of renegotiation, which are key. Is like I find that if you've got a lot of different creditors at different rates, it's quite complicated. So it's a small note to say, like, I highly recommend using any kind of consolidation that you can. So if like your overdraft is actually quite a low interest bearing, it's lower interest bearing compared to like credit cards. But if you can consolidate into one thing and pay that, even if you need like a debt counselor, which I also highly recommend. In fact, Business Rescue gives you like a 6-month holiday on a whole lot of creditors, but it does piss them off. So use that advice wisely. And then I remember at one point, like the other thing that really helps to get rid of is fear. And like banks are probably the toughest lenders. They do appreciate when you're transparent, but they also will seize your assets if you default. And so if you have like a bunch of overdraft, I would always say like bring the debt into the friendliest lender that you can. Because the friendliest lender is someone who you can have an open line with and be honest with. So I had a bunch of overdraft, and actually my wife's business like lent that money to me and cleared the overdraft, and then I paid her business back because she had utmost incentive to keep the the doors of my business open, and she was never going to seize my house because it's her house.
Well, she might just kick you out.
Yeah, it should kick me out. Yeah, there would be like a line item on the divorce. But and then obviously in fact, I saw this with the company recently. It was actually a listed company in America called 2U. And for those in South Africa, you might know them because they bought a company called Get Smarter.
Oh,
and what happened with 2U is they ended up also like in massive financial ruin, and they were in debt. Like a lot of debt, and what they did was they delisted from the stock exchange, and their creditors who they owed the money took equity in their business. And like, to be honest, if you can convert debt to equity, that's like free money. That's free money because you just squash it and then you start at baseline and off you go trading from day one. And usually when you're in this shit situation and you've done the next steps, which are the revenue offensive steps, if you know exactly where you're going and how you're going to make money, and then you have like a white knight come in, crush your debt and become a shareholder, like, can you just imagine that freedom that you feel? Like one day you're about to go under, the next day you're debt free, you've got a new partner, and off you go. So I highly recommend converting debt into equity I mean, that's obviously, you don't want to give away your whole pie, and depends who it is. Refer back to partner conversation, but that is it's like, yeah, it's,
hopefully the debt is less than what the business. Hopefully the debt is less than what the business is worth, obviously. But
yeah.
But yeah, I love that. That's a very cool strategic move, especially if you can find the right person that can help grow further.
Yeah, and then the next step is cut. Hey, like cut. I think I said, what did I say? Cut. Business and personal. I think maybe you can talk about cutting as well. But I know that like, I got over myself so badly about 6 years ago. I was like, I had like a PA, and I had like a whole lot of staff who were doing like, average amounts of work. And I mean, some of them worked really hard, and I'm not taking away from them if they're watching. Like, I loved all of them, but like, I definitely didn't have a well-oiled machine, and I was paying for like a whole lot of random stuff. Like, dude, I used to go for like a massage sometimes twice a week. because I was like, cool, I'm an entrepreneur in the health game. I should be going for self-care, you know, like what the fuck, dude?
Yeah, it's funny. Like a lot of people, you realize, I think when things go well, a lot of people start wasting money on things that don't matter and are not going to grow the business. And I think my partner and I, because we're very assertive and specific about expenses in the business. Like, is this revenue generating expenses or is this actual just expenses? And if it is just a normal expense that you unfortunately have to get, then we try and get very clever with how we can make a passive income that can cover that. So I think once you've saved up a bit of money, obviously you'll be able to do that. But like for now, our offices, you know, we're getting brand new offices, and we're like, oh, bro, like this is not really a revenue generating expense. You know what I'm saying? Like it's obviously nice to have, and there's culture that improves and energy around the team improves. So you can argue that there will be an uplift in, I don't know, productivity or whatever it is. But none of that's obviously tangible, affecting revenue. So what we did was we moved a bunch of money around. Oh, hello. My camera got
I just
unstuck
lost
there.
your video.
Yeah, I think the battery ran out, actually. I don't think it was fully charged. Let me quickly switch over here. Where's my camera? Here we go. Sorry, guys. Let me just fix this quick. Wow, that looks terrible. Now you can see up my nose.
Yeah.
So I was just saying, like, you know, we were in this situation where we got these offices and we were like, okay, cool, it's going to cost this much extra. And it wasn't like a nice pill to swallow. So we literally moved money around into certain investment structures. And now 80% of the cost of the offices are offset based on the passive income that we can make from that. So we're like, oh, never thought we can do this. But it's understanding that, I think, from our side, like if you do well, there's a quote that I've heard from someone. It said, when money comes easy, go hard. When money comes hard, go easy. And it's such a beautiful quote because it's kind of like preaches to how you should think about spending the money. So if money comes easy, go hard. Not hard on luxury stuff, but hard on growing the business. And when money comes hard, go easy. And this is where cut, and all that other stuff comes in, right?
Yeah. So and I think like a lot of people find it difficult to go home and have that conversation with the family. Like, look, I know that we've paid deposit on a holiday overseas, or I know that we've got this fancy car, and I know that it's nice to arrive in the parking lot at the schools with, you know, X, Y, and Z, and maybe we've booked dinners, and the way we entertain, we always buy wine and food. But, you know, personal expenses can rack up very fast. And I know a lot of small business owners run a lot of their personal expenses through their business. No judgment, zero judgment. But they're hard. They don't hide the money. What I'm saying is those expenses hide in the business, and you can save. I've seen people save like 40 to 50,000 rand a month of their business's expenses by just playing it a lot more carefully at home. You know, just don't buy clothes for 3 months and see what happens. Like, bro, if you don't buy clothes for 3 months, nothing will happen.
Yeah, 100%. I believe that.
Yeah, but it's not about the savings. The savings are easy. It's the conversations and the pride and the ego that are very difficult. So cutting personal expenses, I think, is much tougher mentally than it is practically, if that makes sense. Like, you can go without soft drinks and champagne. You can eat macaroni cheese instead of steak and sauteed spinach with asparagus. Like, these are things that people don't mind doing in practice, but it's explaining why and the shame that comes with it.
Butter and oats. I mean, I can eat that all day, every day. Like, I think I don't mind losing everything because I'm such a simple guy to keep happy. You know, I don't need much. I just need a place to sleep. I need some whey protein, if that much, and oats and peanut butter. That'll be my meals for the month, 3 days a week, three times a day. And
you own a supplement company. You can't tell people that.
So yeah, it's exactly. I'll just be eating all the stash that we've got in the warehouse. But it's really a situation of like you realize how little you actually need. And your life becomes a lot less stressful when you actually just keep it simple. Like, even this is now a personal thing, but my wife and I, we've been living in this house since 2021, and she's often said, oh, we need a bigger place. We need a bigger place. The kids are going to grow up. We need a bigger backyard, whatever. And I just kept pushing back. I was like, nah, I don't think so. I think we're good. Like, this is it feels homey. It's so lacquer. And like a year ago, she was like, you know what? You're right. We don't have to keep up with the Joneses or anybody else. Like, it's not about everybody else. And it's not that she had that mentality. I think she was just brought up in her friend circle, like everybody's getting bigger houses and all these things. I was like, bro, you know what? I'd happily sacrifice all of that and have peace of mind that money's in the bank, as opposed to having, living on the breadline and you're trying to flash and trying to be cool to other people. So for me, it's really just, you realize how little you actually need in order to be happy and content with life. And there's diminishing returns on anything else above a certain level. And I think a lot of people don't know that. I think the emotional returns is going to be so much more when there's actually very little. And it's just terrible investment at the end of the day in terms of the actual happiness that you get back.
Yeah, I remember when I was like 21, I remember doing this function. I had a small catering company, and I remember it was like, I did this function for the sultan of someone, or the sheikh. It was like a sheikh, and he paid this whole job in cash. And about 4 days before, they started throwing in a whole lot of extra stuff. So we just sourced it and doubled the fee. And I remember it paid us, and this is in 2004 or 5. He paid us like 80,000 rand in cash, in like 200 rand notes, in a bag. And I remember I took it home, and I was in digs with some mates, and we laid it out in like stacks on the coffee table in the digs, because we'd never seen that much money before. And I remember, like, in that moment, I looked at all the money and I realized, like, this has given me not one dopamine hit at all. Like, zero pleasure was derived from looking. I mean, it was wild to look at it, but it didn't bring me like joy or any of those feelings that I had like worked toward. Yeah. It was such a like numb, dull anticlimax.
And that's most of the time, that's what happens with people when they have goals. It's like, you realize it's never been about the goal. It's about the reason the goal feels so fulfilling is because of all the struggles you had to go through to get there. The goal itself,
that's the fun.
The goal itself is not what makes you happy. Like, I remember wanting to score the most tries on my team for 1 year, and it was like something I've manifested. It's like, I want to score the most tries. And then I realized when I did have the most tries in the team, it was like, nobody actually cares, and I didn't actually.
Did you do that?
But what it did happen for one season, and I was a hooker, but a hooker obviously through you. I mean, I don't want to go into the technical side of it, but it's like I was able to.
It's not a high scoring position.
Well, I mean, especially if you've got you score a lot from lineouts if you think about it. But that's kind of like what happened to me, and I was like, you know what? At the end of the day, that didn't really bring me any more fulfillment. However, it was the fulfillment in every try and the process behind the try and the strategy behind every try that I found enjoyment in. So it was the enjoyment lied in every single individual try and not the actual total accumulation of tries and that. And it's the same with money and business as well. The process of building and creating is actually what's fulfilling, not the actual money that's actually in the bank account. And yes, a lot of people are going to be happy and spoil themselves the moment they reach, let's say your target is $1 million. You want to get $1 million cash in your bank account. The moment you get that, yes, you're going to feel excited. You're going to feel amazing. But promise you're going to wake up tomorrow and go, cool. What's next? Like, okay, cool. You're going to go on a nice holiday and you're going to come back. Once you've had your 2 weeks of acclimatizing to the fact that you've got $1 million in your bank account, you're going to be exactly where you were 2 weeks ago emotionally. And you're going to be like, okay, cool. What do we do now? And that is why some people never stop. That's why some people are addicted to hustle, because they think that there is something on the other side of this hustle. They keep hustling because they're looking for that rainbow. However, it just never comes. So it's that bumper sticker cliche quote from, I think it was Toyota or who back in the day said, it's the journey, not the destination, or something like that. It was like a car brand or it was a Bucky brand. I think it was Toyota or something like that. And it's such a cliche, but it is all about the journey. It's not about the destination.
Yeah, you're totally right. Sure. I mean, I could talk about that for ages. So many things come up for me, like training for events and stuff. But bringing it back to cutting business expenses, this is a strong segue into revenue offensive. Because if we just like zoom out a little for a second and we look at like, okay, so your back's up against the wall and you've realized now you're in big trouble. You've had the mirror talk and you've like realized what's happening and you've kind of started dealing with your energy and you've focused on like exercising 3 times a week, worked on your relationships. or at least committed to improving them, and you've started being honest with people about your financial situation, and you've cut. Now, often what happens is when you cut, you have to cut some costs that were generating revenue. So you can't just cut costs and hold tight. You have to cut costs and then drive something that is profitable so that it can cover the shortfall of revenue that you were getting from, say, like a few other streams. And so we do have to go on revenue offensive. It's very unlikely that someone can cut costs 100% out of trouble. By the way, I just want to reiterate, I still highly recommend, if you're in trouble, to not try and only grow out of trouble. It is really hard to grow out of trouble. I highly recommend cutting. But once you've cut, and maybe while you're cutting, it's important to think about your business strategy and your product market fit for what horse you are going to back going into the next phase, which is the revenue offensive. And this is something that I think you and I absolutely love talking about, which is product market fit. So maybe you can, in the context of that, like now you've trimmed down and you're getting ready to ramp up. I know this is something that you did with your business. I think you said in 2021 when you were dealing with Alex Hormozy and your coaching, where you really got clear on your product market fit.
Yeah, man, that's exactly it. I think 2020 is a classic example of what you're discussing now. We were growing and we were quite bloated. We didn't have efficient systems in place. We couldn't onboard more than 2 or 3 clients a month. If we did, everything seemed to break. So no matter how many leads we generated, how many people would have wanted to give us money, we just couldn't take that money and actually give value in exchange for it. So I think I was on this mastermind with Alex Hormozy before he started, hitting the scene and becoming popular. I just, on the call, he was just incredibly wise. Like you could see this guy's been through it. Like he's not giving you advice based on textbooks. He's giving you advice based on his experience. And I think he's moving at such a fast pace that he's just building up so much wisdom and experience because of the fast pace that he's moving in. But long story short, he was on a call and we were speaking about systems and processes and speaking about just sometimes the answer is more volume. And, I remember chatting to the mentor who organized the masterclass, and we were like, okay, cool. Like, I want to implement now all of these things. What is the first thing I fix? And he goes, bro, you have to fix the fact that you actually offering a service to everybody, and that is the problem right now. So he said, the first thing you need to do is offer a service for one specific person. And who is that person? So that's when we started deciding to target e-commerce business owners. So that was the first niche that we targeted really aggressively. And we were the first agency in the country to actually be that niche specific. So we said from 2021 that we're only servicing e-commerce businesses. So this is now after cutting a bunch of expenses and working our way through COVID and fixing systems and processes, thanks to the shit that we've learned in the masterclass, and going, okay, cool. If we did get 10 clients to say yes tomorrow and wanted to pay us, how the hell do we take their money and give them value in exchange for it? So we built back-end systems, SOPs, and we've realized like your business can't run without systems. Like you don't raise to the revenue to the levels of your revenue, you fall to the levels of your systems. That's a big thing that I believe. If your revenue is stuck, it's most likely because your systems are stuck or not enough. So long story short, fixed systems, and then we said, okay, cool, we're going to go full out e-commerce. And in 2021, we did that and we tripled our business. So what helped us a lot was the fact that we had one message, and every single ad dollar that we spent went behind one message to one avatar. And it made such a big difference in our cost per acquisition, as well as in the business that we were building, because now we could build systems specifically for those services and nothing else. It was like, if a client comes along, this is what we do. And essentially the team got more efficient. Clients obviously got quicker results because now we were just fixating on how to fix these things that can drive results. The team could be more responsive. We could train the team faster. We could bring people up to speed faster because everything was just about one thing. And obviously now we have different services because we've grown out of those verticals. And now we have different verticals in the agency, but all of them are treated the same as the initial vertical, which was e-commerce, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Can I just stop you? Because I really hope everyone is paying attention. This is like the golden thread that I wish the whole world would know. Can you just talk about that initial jump? Because it's very easy to see, these guys service e-commerce, but there was a time where you were servicing everyone. You decided to serve e-commerce, and you must have had people who were not e-commerce businesses asking you to serve them. and now you're giving away opportunity and you're saying no. Can you just talk about that period and how you got through that? Because that is the gold right there.
So it was the hardest thing to do because entrepreneurs, everybody wants to say yes to everything, right? Because we think every yes is more money in the bank, and with that money you can keep growing. That's what and you can keep building, and that's the goal of an entrepreneur, is to build. So the moment someone says here's money, you go yes, and you take it, and you go I can continue building. But what you're not realizing is that when you say yes to that money, you're slowing everything down actually, because you have to give a fair value of exchange. And I think what I realized was like, we were just too all over the show with our services. So we literally, I think at the time we had 30 clients. So we not fired, we gently had conversations saying, hey, we're no longer going to be servicing these industries anymore. We'll help you find another agency. And they were like quite blown away. They're like, what the hell are you saying? Like, that doesn't make any sense. You turning business away. And we were like, yes, this is unfortunately the way that we're going. It was hard because you saying yes to clients, or we were trying to say yes to clients we didn't actually have yet, and we were saying no to clients we did have who was paying us on a monthly basis. So it was like, this is a very stressful move for us. But as clients came on board through the ecom division that we built, we started saying, listen, to other clients, we were saying, listen, we can't help you anymore. This is the story. We'll help you find someone else. Or how long do you need us to help you for until we can move you over to something else or internal, and we'll consult on how to do that. And it was a very stressful phase because there was no guarantee that it was going to work. However, the moment we had our first 4 or 5 e-commerce clients, and we could see how the team is becoming more efficient at servicing those clients, I was like, okay, cool. This is a game changer, and we just need to double down. And I think for us, we were too broad, and we didn't have the systems to back up all those different services. So it was like we were offering copywriting, website design, Facebook ads, Google ads, email, and for all the different industries. So we didn't actually have the systems and processes in place to do that at scale. So what happened was we had to rebuild the business to service one specific industry, but do it exceptionally well, better than anybody else. And that was 2021. That happened. And then in 2022, 2023, we were like, okay, cool. There's only so many e-commerce clients in South Africa, and there's a level of churn that's obviously healthy within the agency that we keep in check. However, how do we keep growing? And that's when one of our mentors was like, okay, cool. Now it's time to grow other verticals. So what I've realized is that it's not yes or no about being specific and having product market fit and having one product in the market. And because a lot of people will be like, this is the niche that we're going to specialize in. It's the timing of it all. It's the timing of it all, and where the business is in its level of maturity, and where you are in your maturity as a business owner, and where you are in terms of spending your time, and where your team are in terms of how they've structured your internal systems, etc. And essentially, once all those things are in check and you feel like you've conquered a specific vertical, then you can start rebuilding another vertical. But again, it's the timing of it that's crucial. And I think a lot of people are trying to grow horizontally too quickly, as opposed to just focusing on the vertical that you're in and trying to amplify that and going as deep as possible into that vertical before you get sidetracked with everything else. Because shiny object syndrome is a real thing when it comes to entrepreneurs. It's like, it is a real thing, no matter what you want to say about it. Like, I have that issue all the time, and I still have to remind myself and go, oh, geez, like, oh, there's an opportunity. I'm like, no, stay the course. And that's why this year there's only I do, and next year there will only 3 things I do. If nothing of those, if anything doesn't fall into those 3 things, I don't do it. It's because that is what's working for me right now, and I have no objective data to prove otherwise. So I've learned the hard way that saying yes to everything is actually the worst thing that you can do, and saying no to things that are not a fit for what you actually want to do is the best thing that you can do.
Yeah, no, saying no is very hard, and I think there's an illusion out there. I remember hearing a guy who sold his business and he had some capital, and he said, no, my goal is to be the founder of 100 companies. And I remember thinking, like, that sounds like the next 30 years of your life are going to be torture. Like, like for me, I'd like to be the founder of one company and that does really well. But also, you look at guys like Richard Branson, and Richard Branson, I think, under the umbrella, like, they're obviously new companies and opening and companies closing down, but there are roughly 200 companies in that group. And when I read that book when I was 19 or 20, Losing My Virginity, I thought, okay, well, now I want lots of companies. But no one realizes that actually his first company was Virgin Records, and he ran that pretty much in isolation for, I think, more than a decade. Before his first business was Student Magazine, but then Virgin Records became the main thing. And only once that thing was huge was he like focusing on other businesses. But he had cashed out almost, And so most people who are outrageously successful made their first bit of success from one thing, and then bridged out, which is important. So anyway, we went into the product market fit thing, which I think is really important, and I hope people got the gold that you gave it. It was like really important. What happened to me, and I remember my mentor saying to me, like, how often are you speaking to your customers? This was around about the same time he told me to go to gym. And I had this idea in the business that we were this online business, we were tech focused. One of the values on like our core values was automate everything. And I was like, and I looked at that and I was like, automating everything for me meant like I never ever want to speak to a customer. Like these people are going to log a ticket. We will answer their ticket. Like one day when AI becomes real, we will have like a bot answering, like we'll never speak to anyone. And he said to me, like, when last did you speak to a customer on the phone? And I was embarrassed. My business was like 4 years old. I had never spoken to a customer on the phone ever. And the only time I'd met customers was like at a talk or something where one of them would come and say to me, like, oh, I'm on your program. And I would almost be like, I don't know what to say to you. Like, this is awkward. I had like, no relationship. And so anyway, like he said, you got to be asking your customers these 3 key questions as often as possible. And it is, what should we, in fact, I think I've got them, no, I didn't write them down, but basically the 3 questions are what should we keep doing? What should we stop doing? And what should we start doing? It's like, it's so simple, but if you just send an email survey, it depends. If you've got a high volume of customers, then you could send a newsletter and just say, hey guys, we'd love your feedback. We're developing new stuff. Let me know what you think. But if you've got, a cluster of 20 clients, that's 20 phone calls or personalized WhatsApps or whatever. And you say, listen, we're gathering some intel. Can you just answer these 3 questions for me? And I promise you, like, it's so often that your customers know so much more than you about what you should be doing in your business. Sometimes they ask for things that aren't profitable and that you just have to say no to. But in general, if you ask, I guarantee you, if you ask all of your customers today, those 3 questions, you will have your business enough information to form a business strategy for the next 3 to 5 years. Like I 100% guarantee I will die. I will kill myself tomorrow if that is not true.
Dude, it's such a simple thing, right? I mean, you said, what should we start doing? What should we stop doing? What should we continue doing? It's so simple, really, right? And sometimes we just don't know how simple things actually have. And I think there's a mentor that once said to me, said, Jandre, it's not that easy, but it is that simple. And I was like, that quote, oh man, I think that's one of the quotes that will stay with me for the rest of my life, because we think that everything is easy is simple. And we think that everything that's difficult is complex. It's just how our minds perceive reality. But there's such a big difference between simplicity and the difficulty. And I think when I realized that simple doesn't mean it's easy, and easy doesn't mean it's simple. It's, oh, wow, okay, cool. Here are the things that I need to do better. Like, for example, when we wanted to grow the agency, we were stuck at like $1 million a month. This was like 2 or 3 years ago. And I spoke to a mentor and he goes, just do more. I was like, what do you mean? He goes, we've got 2 options. You either do you double your prices or you get more clients. Why don't you do both? It's like you either, if to make more money, this was so simple. He said, to make more money, you have to sell more of the same thing, or you have to sell more valuable things.
Yeah.
Like, what other options are there? Maybe there's, I don't know, maybe hypothetically there's other options available, but I can't think of
sell more things. Yeah, sell more things.
Like, it's just like you sell more of the same thing, or you sell more valuable things. And in my mind, I was like, holy shit, that's actually, why did I not know that it is this simple? Because we think we're sitting there in the moment and you're overcomplicating everything, and you're like, oh man, like, how are we going to figure this out? Like, what is the secret bullet to scaling our profits and doubling our profits? And it's like, bro, like, there's only two ways that you can do this. So either you pick one of those roads, or you don't pick one at all and you stay where you are. It's like, that is really the objectivity, the black and white of life. It's like, if nothing else is going to miraculously happen, so you either have to put your big cool panties on and then walk down one of these paths, or try and do both of them at the same time, or you just stay where you are. Like, make up your mind. So we almost like walk in circles, expecting random things to happen, when there's clear road signs going, if you want to grow, go this way. If you want to grow, go this way. But then we don't want to do any of those ways, because we're not ready for it. But meanwhile, we're looking for a different way that's just never going to come. So I think that was quite a big moment for me. It's like, okay, cool. We'll do more of the same thing, and we will increase our prices. And that's what we did. And literally, we doubled our profits, tripled our profits in the last 2 or 3 years. And it's like, oh, wow, it is that simple. But it wasn't easy.
Yeah. Simple and easy. Simple. What's difficult? Difficult and complicated are not necessarily related. Like, go to gym and eat well. Simple.
Yeah. Simplicity and difficulty is not the same. Is not related to each other, and we use it like it's interchangeable, almost like, or we use it like it's part of the same thing, but it's not.
Yeah. So the next little piece is on selling. Like, assuming you get your product market fit, and I'll share a little story about this. So after I got that insight about the fact that I'd never spoken to a customer, I remember I developed a coaching program. So, by the way, in a service business, one of the best things you could do is repackage a service that you're already giving as a product, and that's what you did with your e-commerce business. And it's when you really understand your customers. So, say you ask these 3 questions, you understand exactly where the value is, and you find a way to package it in a way that it becomes easier to buy and faster to sell. You can actually sell the same product that other people are selling, but because it's neatly packaged, it's like an arm's length thing. So, for example, if you were a house mover, you instead of going for a full quote or whatever, you can guesstimate that like a 4-bedroom house is going to be with X amount of square meters. It's probably going to be a truck and a half. And what people do is they'll come, the movers, when we moved our house, we had 3 different guys come in. They do this extensive quote, and all the quotes were within like $5,000 of each other. If you back yourself and you know that on average it's going to cost you X amount, you could simplify the whole world. In fact, I'm actually asking a moving company to do this. Like, if you're a moving company, do this, because you'll make everyone's life easier. And you say, to move a 4-bedroom house, it's going to cost 30,000 Rand. Boom. No questions asked. Like, as someone who's moving house, I'm going to be like, okay, Kip, no, like, that's cool. What are the T's and C's? No, the T's and C's are like, if you either bring your own boxes or we'll bring boxes, and that's it. Like, that is something that is easy to sell and it's easy to buy. No complicated quotes, simple process. And like, on average, if you're moving 10 houses a month, you're going to make money. Like, that's the kind of simplicity you need. And then, and so I think that's what Yandre was talking about earlier. Yandre, you were talking about like going hard at e-commerce, like, and your price was the same for that package, and you just bet on, like, some clients are going to be a bit more work, but on general, like, I think we're going to get it here, because it was very easy to actually sign up.
And
then,
a funny story. Like, I just want to share, like, we actually, when we went into now selling more of the same thing and making prices higher, we started selling packages at a ridiculous amount of money. And we had 10 customers come on board, and 3 of them were just super upset. 5 of them actually at the end of the day were upset. And then we realized, okay, cool, maybe we're charging a little bit too much. We realized the business was speaking to us that we were not giving enough value in exchange for the prices that we were charging. So people were willing to pay that money, but the value that we could afford to give back wasn't enough. And that's when we had to take a hard look. It was like a 60-day period of the business where we went, okay, cool, listen, let's drop the price until we can get better at the execution, and then we can slowly start it, but surely increase prices again. That's exactly what happened. So we went to charge triple the amount, or 4 times the amount we normally did, and then the value was not necessarily 4 times more. So it was a situation where we had to lower the price, improve the value, and then that's how kind of like we stacked it up over time. And then now every time we ask ourselves, like, if we increase our prices, like if it's inflation related or whatever the case may be, that's great. But is it directly correlated to the amount of value that we can get? So if we figured out a new thing that nobody else has figured out yet, yeah, we are going to put a price tag on it. But if we feel that the value is obviously not there, then we have to, adjust that price to make sure it's actually within the market, I suppose. That's just something I wanted to do.
Yeah. And then just my experience with selling is doing sales as a founder. I know so many founders who say, no, I can't handle sales. I never do sales. And like, I used to say that. And so that's why I think I have the right to say that there is no one who can't do sales. Sales is something that I think that everyone thinks when they're phoning someone, they're trying to ask them to give them money. And especially as a founder, you can frame it totally differently. Like you're asking about someone's problems and thinking about whether or not you can solve their problems. And I've had lots of sales calls where I've actually referred people away from my business and said, actually, I'm going to solve your problem. And I promise you, if you turn someone away because you can't help them, it almost makes them love your business more because of how honest and upfront you're doing. There was what was that shoe company that was bought by Amazon? It was like a famous one. Do you know what I'm talking about? Zappos, yeah. So they had like a policy that if they were selling shoes, if they were speaking to someone on the phone and they couldn't find a shoe, or that they felt that this person needed a shoe that they weren't selling, they were welcome in a share screen call to send them to some other retailer to buy their shoes, because they were so invested in customer service that they ranked customer service ahead of sales. So we're like, if you can help solve this person's problem, they will come back and buy shoes at a later stage. It doesn't matter. Anyway,
I read the book. It was called Delivering Happiness.
Yeah. That's the one. And so, yeah. And as the boss on the phone, you have a lot of clout. Like when I was on the phone, people said, "Wow, like John is actually phoning me." They didn't know that I couldn't afford a salesperson at the time, and I had to be the salesman. And then more recently, when I developed a new bunch of products and services with my new business, I had a whole lot of clients that I used to service with weight loss, and then I had other clients I used to coach, like a lot of CEOs, and those are actually more closer to the clients for my new business. And I didn't really want to phone these coaching clients I had a personal relationship with and say, like, I've got this new thing. So what I did, and I recommend doing this, is mailing them and say, listen, like I'm researching. You are, in this case, I said, look, you are entrepreneurs and I know that you all need content. So I would love to chat to you just to get your wisdom on like where you think I should be playing. And 2 of those calls ended up becoming, they asked me to quote. And I even said to them, I was like, I'm not phoning you for a sales call. Like, this is not a sales call. I just want your advice. And they ended up like commissioning some pretty valuable work.
So, you know what it is? It's almost like the bullshit meter in people's minds is like, there's so many people who's trying to almost like exploit customers. Like you want to get as much money as possible from a customer or a client in order to serve your own selfish needs. There's very few people who actually want to ensure that they give the value back for whatever they're charging. And I think those people are in the minority. Most people are just, how much money can we make and how will it benefit us? And the moment you say, listen, I'm not doing this as a sales call, this is not, I'm actually trying to learn, that bullshit meter is just so much lower. Like, they lower that bullshit meter going, okay, cool, there's no threat here. Because the moment you go, hey, I can do this, I can do that, the bullshit meter just immediately raises to 99%. And people are trying to protect themselves because everybody is so programmed to try and screw you over, or not screw over, but it's like trying to get money out of you. And then they get very lazy on in exchange of the value. So when you find someone who's just completely honest saying, listen, I don't think I'll be able to help you, but go speak to this person. It's almost like that. There's so few people that are that honest and that transparent and that authentic that they just naturally want to work with those people because you don't know if the other person is going to have your best interest at heart. So that's why I believe having your client's best interest at heart is always ROI positive. Like if you couldn't deliver a great service, refund, apologize, fix what you can. There's no doubt in my mind that after 3 or 4 years, they might want to come back or do something else. Like we went through that time when we grew growing so quickly. I had to refund probably 4 out of 10 clients for 2
Wow.
or 3 months, right? Yeah, 100%. And because we fucked up, and I
Yeah.
phoned them, and I still have a relationship with some of them. Some of them came back because I was like, we fucked up, and we're human. Like
Is
I'm
it
not
the
I'm not
Yandre effect?
No, it's just like, but think about it, it's like we're human. We're not here to take your money and run away with it. Like that's not the
Yeah.
goal. The goal is to screw you over. I'm sorry that looks like it's the result. Like I'm really truly sorry that is the case. Like that is not okay, and we will try our best to fix it. But please understand our intentions. Our intentions are not to do this. So let me prove that to you by refunding you. So now the only thing that you've wasted is time. Like
Yeah.
you've wasted time, and you've learned a couple of lessons. We've learned a couple of lessons. So I think it's an ROI positive event.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
totally. Yeah. So I think tying on, like closing the loop, I read an amazing book a while back called Profit First by a guy called, I think it's Mike Michalowicz. It's a really good book. It's a
You've
and
written a
you
few
know
books.
yeah, and so the foundational principle that really helped was how to distribute your profit, and so this book is the perfect book for anyone who's got their back up against the wall, because it talks about the envelope system and simplifying your cash. A lot of entrepreneurs spend too much time looking at the income statement and not enough time looking at the cash flow statement. And what he said is that we should take the profit out of the business before anything else, because usually what entrepreneurs do is say revenue minus cost of sales minus overheads is what I've got left. And what he says is you should do revenue minus profit, leaves you with your gross profit and your overheads. And so that will help you actually, by looking at it like that, you decide on your profit first. And when the money comes in, you actually distribute the profit into an account that you can't touch. So then you have the balance of that money to now knap and try to figure out, okay, like how am I going to make it? How am I going to make it work?
I love that book, and it's funny that I didn't know you were going to mention that book. I love that book. So it also teaches you how to set up different bank accounts. So we have a VAT, the tax account, an operations account, and then a profit account. And I mean, we don't do that religiously as we used to back in the day, especially on the profit side. But the VAT and the tax and the operating side we do. Like the moment money comes in, we put a percentage back to VAT. The moment the month is over, we put a percentage to tax. And then when the money is in the operating account, we always look at what can we actually operate the business with. So what is the operating expenses on a monthly basis? How many months worth of runway do we have? So if the operating expenses of the business is hypothetically R1 million, then it's a situation where we go, cool, we need at least 2 million rand in that operating account at any given time. Like that is the goal, or at least 2 million rand available, liquid cash available, in order to ensure that we can get that right. Obviously, you put money aside in different funds. Maybe you have a longer cash runway, but like 2 million at least operating cash ready to go. Like you can't wait 48 hours to deploy that money. You can't like phone the bank and ask like, this is it. We need that money ready to go. And then we still do the tax and the VAT side of it. Like, so we budget for VAT, obviously. So let's say we work at like 10%, so not 15, because a lot of the expenses can be deducted from VAT. So we'll say 10% of the revenue we make, we put in VAT, and then about 15 to 20% we put in tax. I know tax is 28%, but obviously, again, a lot of stuff can be offset. So we look at the revenue and go, cool, we'll put 15 to 20% aside. And funny enough, like almost all the time, we over budgeted. So every time we come back to provisional tax or financial year end tax, then it's a situation where we've budgeted for, let's say, hypothetically, R1 million, and then tax is like 750. We're like, hey, we just made 250K extra, which we didn't actually, which wasn't really our money to begin with, but because we were strategic on how we, do things in the business, like we over budgeted. And it was like, oh, amazing! Now we can do something cool with it. So that was a life-changing book for me, and I can highly recommend it for everybody.
Yeah, the closing comment there is that, so firstly, I second everything you said there. And then he says that you have to teach yourself to enjoy the money. And so even if you are up shit creek and you can't pay, and you really don't feel like you deserve a profit. Hey?
Does that mean going for 2 massages a week?
No. No, but he says that if you say, for instance, if you've got like a huge amount of debt and you've restructured, what you should do is still allocate profit. So you take your profit, but you put 90% of that profit into paying off debt, and you still take that first before you take all your other stuff. But 10% of that, you still pay out to yourself for pleasure, because you have to train your brain to derive pleasure from growing the business. And as long as, even if you're just getting 10% of 10% and buying yourself something nice, taking yourself to a movie, whatever, spoiling yourself, you should still be doing that. But you should pay all of your profit except for 10% of that back into clearing your debt, and then you will eventually come out of it, which is the part I thought was most pertinent for this. Yeah.
No, I love it. I was just making a joke because you were saying like you had 2 massages a week.
No, it's been a while since I had 2 in a week. Yeah.
Listen, I had a lot of fun with you. Thanks, dude. I actually have to shoot as well, and I know you do too. I want to say thanks for your time, and for those watching and listening. If you've got any questions, I mean, we don't have time to answer it now, but I'm happy to reply to the comments. So if you're watching this and you still have a question, feel free to drop it, and we'll try and reply to in the comment section for you. We're doing this every Thursday at 10. So if you've enjoyed this and there's any value in it, then come join us next week. Oh shit, I've got a mini TV series recording next week Thursday. There's no way I can change that, unfortunately. So next week I think we can't do, because we're recording a mini series of 6 episodes, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Maybe there's an hour to sneak out. I'll keep you posted. I would love to sneak out actually just for an hour and quickly do a live with you. But let's see. From my side, man, always fun. Thanks for all the value and the nuggets, and thanks for also holding me accountable. And then we'll hopefully see you everybody next time.
Awesome, man. It's always a pleasure. And to everyone watching, thanks so much. Please, as Yandre said, leave your comments and we'll get to them at a later stage. All the best, eh? Cheers, guys.
Like and subscribe, otherwise we stop doing this immediately.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.